don't do this like I did. And let's make this cutting board. It's small and it's pretty handy. It's an everyday end grain cutting board, and we're using the end grain to make a special pattern. It looks pretty cool, easy to do, and it's kind of fun. So I'm using a 3/4 inch with 3 TPI, 3 teeth per inch. This is a Timberwolf blade, and they work pretty good for resawing. So this is 3/4 inch with 3 TPI. We'll run these through the planer, get them flat. Okay, we're gonna rip these little guys down to, about, what have I got here? 13/16, just a little over 3/4. So here we go. We're going to show you the end grain on a piece of walnut here. Might be easier to see. So you can see how that's going like that. So if we use the other end, they kind of go the same direction. And it's not quite as nice looking. I think it's just my opinion as something like that. So I'm going to take my time and just kind of work through and get it how I want it to look. I like actually, this is Type Bond 3 in a mustard container. I like the Type Bond 3, that's what I use all the time. It's waterproof, so gives you a little bit more working time too. Okay, I'll have to just try to keep the orientation going here, so just take my time with this. So what I'm doing here is I'm just gluing up the two boards or pieces of wood that we match the grain on. So I'm gluing those up together first. I'm only gluing these up this way because I haven't figured out what I want to do for a pattern. So I'm not gluing them all together just yet. That way it gives me the option to just move things around and figure out my pattern. Okay, we'll get these clamped up here a little bit. Okay, now that this glue's set up here a little bit, we'll take it over to the planer. Okay, this is the pattern I came up with. So I'm going to get this glued up and then we'll see what happens. When we cut this, we'll trim it down, but we'll take and shift the boards one way or the other. So right now, yeah, we're right at a little over 10 inches wide this way. So there'll be a little trimming. So I'll get the glue in here and I'll spare you that. Now you can kind of see what the grain is doing here when these are all flipped up. And this is the end grain showing here. So we have some options here. We got several. I'm intentionally longer than I am wide. This is going to be basically, in the end result, it's going to be pretty much square. But I wanted some options here. Okay, so I'm kind of liking this design here. It kind of lines everything up, makes a little triangle on everything. So how I'm doing that is this one is facing that way. And I take this guy, roll him over the other way, and we get that little triangle effect. I kind of like that. We'll see if we can go with that. So that looks pretty good. So I'll try that. Okay, so what I've done is lined everything up. I think I'm kind of liking this. So part of this is going to get cut off. So what I can do is I can cut this off down here and that edge can stay on there. So one of these two I've got to remove to make this symmetrical. I'm out of little pieces. I didn't want this to be a very big cutting board anyway, so, but I don't know, I'm kind of tore, but I think this is going to be a better looking board if I do it that way than this way. Here. I think it, I don't know. I like it better with the two lines going across. What do you think? Leave me a comment. I don't like glue. And you can see I've had glue on these before. It's kind of hard to clean off. So, you guys have anybody have a good tip in there how to clean that off these aluminum bars? That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. Leave me a comment. I'd appreciate that. Okay. want to get it too tight, make it bow. So that's pretty good there. I'll get another clamp and put in the middle here. I think that'll do it. All right, we'll let that set up, see what we got. So here it is, it's glued up. This side was the side facing down, so it's relatively flat. And you can see the end grain in here, the designs we got going. In here you can kind of see the little triangles here. So it'll show up a little bit better once we get it kind of cleaned up. This side is flat because it was on the bottom. This side is not. So I don't have a drum sander, and it would take me, you know, quite a while to sand this out by hand. So I'm gonna actually do it on the planer, and I'll show you how I do end grain. And I haven't had a problem with it doing it this way, and I take it in very, very tiny bites. So that's the secret too. So we'll probably cut this down to size before I do that. Okay, I got this cut up here. I just decided to save the walnut pieces on the end here. And so what I'm gonna do is use some cherry on the ends here. We're gonna plane it in this direction here, and that'll keep it from biting into the grain and wreaking havoc. Plus, we're going to take very, very small bites on the planer. So I would not suggest doing this. I just suggest taking the time and hand sanding it. Or if you got a drum sander, good for you. That's awesome. That would work great. Okay, here we go. I'm going to glue this up, and then we'll see over at the planer. All right, we're all glued up here, ready to go over to the planer. But I wanted to talk about a couple things here. These strips here, on a lot of the cutting boards they do are the end grain, and I'm gonna run them on my planer. I use sacrificial edge grain, just so the grain doesn't split off when you're coming. And then a lot of times I've seen on a planer that it really bites in there hard and kicks back, and you never want to stand in the way of it. So we're going to be really careful. These are going to stay on there. That helps to make it square because I wanted to keep this maple edge here. Or I wanted to keep this walnut edge here on both sides. So I did that not only for running through the planer, but also just so it looks better. Anyways, we'll take it over to the planer and take little tiny bites on this. Well, that didn't work out, so don't do this. Okay, I guess there's always got to be a first time and a reason why people say don't do this on a planer. So that's my little cutting board there. Got caught up in the planer, and it breaks real easy. It'll catch on just that end grain. So apparently I was doing too big of chunks at a time. Plus, I should have been running it through this way, because on my last glue up, the boards are going this way. So I got little ridges going this way. So lesson learned here. I am going to just kind of save this, cut this, and put another little piece of cherry or something over here. And then put some sacrificial boards on the ends here. And I'll run it through that planer again, and we'll see what it looks like, just to see what this end grain looks like so we can show you. So don't do this like I did. Last glue up I did, they were going this way, so the ridges were this way, so that's what it got caught on, clear back in here, and blew it apart. I took too big of a bite, so what I did was I pieced that back in here, a piece of it. You know, I found some of it across the shop over there, big enough piece to add in there, and so actually I think it was down here. You can see this piece here got squished up that way. So the pattern is no longer like that, but like this. It is what it is. I'm going to save this board. You know, I got a little time in it, so I don't want to trash it. So I glued this on here to enable me to run it through the planer the right direction. These are sacrificial. I'm going to take these off. These were on here. The walnut and the maple were put on here to make it square, to make up for the material I lost. So I'll cut this edge off and this edge off right up to the walnut, and then I'll end up kind of rounding the corners here. So we'll continue on with that and see how it looks. Okay, well, here we have it. It's back into one piece. Rounded the corners here a little bit, so now we're going to sand it. I'm going to start off with some 100, then finish it up with some 220. We'll water pop it, and then sand it. So if you don't know what water popping is, it's just spray it with water, let it dry. That'll raise the grain a little bit, so that when you sand it, it'll stay smooth after you oil it, and after you use it for a while, it'll just stay smooth. If you don't do that, it'll get a little rough over time. So we'll do that. So I'm going to do a little bit of sanding, maybe show you a little bit of that, but not much. Okay, now I'm going to water pop it and get this guy wet here. And we'll just gotta let it dry out. Okay, we got this all sanded down and ready to put a finish on it, but I'm going to drill some holes here for some little feet I'll put on the bottom here. I like to do that with these little small cutting boards like that. Keeps them from sliding around on the counter. And I know you can use like a damp towel, and then this will be reversible, but this is an everyday cutting board, and it's just makes it simple to use. Okay, with these feet here, I'm using a 5/64 drill bit for the little stainless screws that come with these feet. And I'll link these feet that I'm using in the description below. They work great. Okay, I like to drill the holes here before I put my finish on. That way some of the finish gets down the hole too, but that'll work. It's just easier to mark where your holes go without that finish on there. Okay, so I'm using some cutting board oil put out by Walrus Oil. It's really good stuff. I've been using it for a long time. I really like it. It works great. And also, you can get the wood wax, put a finish on top of that, and that'll help protect your cutting boards even more. So I'll leave a link in the description below for these. Get them off of Amazon. Okay, here we go. I just use my hand. Let this soak in a little bit. We'll put a coat of wax on there after this kind of sets up a little bit. Okay, we'll put a little bit of wax on here. And I just use my hands with this. I just use my hands with this. Get it in there. Okay, we'll let this dry for about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and buff it. Okay, we'll take this in the house, and we've got some better light in there, and we'll show you what this looks like under some good light. Okay, you can kind of see the wood grain here now, the patterns that you have in here. The camera doesn't do it justice, but it looks pretty good. But you can see what happens when you play around with the grain, so you can make your own patterns. Just take your time, have fun. I think it looks pretty cool. What do you think?